Hi, welcome to Pro Shop Talk. I'm Daniel. I'm the technical director here at RW Supply & Design. And today I want to talk a little bit about sealers. Today I'm talking with Dee. He's the training manager for Bona. He trains a lot of contractors and trains people on how to use their products. Before that, he's a contractor, so just a wealth of knowledge in the sand and finish world. So welcome, Dee.
Thanks, Daniel. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to open my mind up about sealers. I get a lot of questions about them. I think there's a lot of confusion about what sealers are just because the term sealer is just kind of a universal term, like, hey, stain seals wood, finish seals wood, lacquer seals wood, varnish seals, like, you know. So when we talk about sealers as a specific product in floor finishes, it can be confusing for guys. So what would you say a sealer is, and why is it used?
So I think the best way I explain it is that, in our industry, it's important to seal before you finish, just like, in the paint industry, you should prime before you paint. So finishes don't make good seal coats, meaning that it really doesn't do a good job of sealing the wood so that the finish coats can sit on top. Not to get too technical, but it's really based on the molecule size of how these finishes are formulated, I should say these products, whereas a sealer can really soak into a wood and truly seal that wood so that, because you want your finish coats to sit on top and become your nice durable wear layers. Sealers are also just aesthetics. I mean, it gives you the look. Not only does it seal the wood, but it also determines the look you're going to have on that wood, and then your finishes are just your clear coat products that sit on top and gives you your durability.
Gotcha. Okay. So sealer is the first coat that you would use either on the raw wood or over the stained wood.
Correct, and that depends on what stain you're working with, because not all stains are true sealers. Some stains just give color, whereas a Bona stain is a sealer and a stain.
Okay.
Because it's not just an oil-based stain, it's an oil-modified urethane stain. So it has sealing properties to it. So that's why I always make sure contractors understand that depending on what stain you're working with, you want to find out, is it necessary to put a sealer over that stain you're using prior to putting the finish down?
Gotcha. So, okay, Bona stain can act as a sealer.
Correct.
You can also put Bona sealers over the stain as well?
You can, and the reason why a guy would do that is if he's just looking to get more build. And so, yeah, you could. There's only one sealer we have currently, which is the Classic Seal that doesn't play nice over stain.
Okay.
But any of our other sealers, depending on the desired look you're going for, you could apply over our stain.
Okay. And now, would you recommend for your products like a 3-coat system, 2-coat system, or what would you recommend in terms of how many coats you put down and what those coats are?
Yeah, so with most of our water-based and oil-based products, it's a 3-coat system, meaning at least a minimum of 1 seal coat, but then you have to have 2 coats of finish. That's a must over our sealers, because that's, again, where your durability comes from, is that finish coat, and not the sealer is just aesthetics. And the sealer, one of the big features of the sealer, it helps minimize side bonding, which is the gluing of the wood together. And when you put straight finish, typically 2-component water-based finishes, they're like epoxies. They can glue that floor together, and you don't want that when it comes to seasonal movement. So 3-coat systems is typically what we talk about, depending on what products you're using. But with our water-based lineup, yeah, 1 seal coat, or even if a guy chooses to do 2 or 3 seal coats, you still have to have a minimum of 2 finish coats over that.
Gotcha. Okay. So sounds like the sealer sets up a good platform for the finish to go over the top of that. Let's pick a 3-coat system. Let's say you're doing sealer, finish. How is that going to look different from a finish? Because I think a lot of guys think finish is the durable stuff, sealer's the cheap stuff, so I got to put down 3 coats of the durable stuff as opposed to 1 coat of the cheap stuff and then 2 coats. So like I'm going to go with 3 coats of finish. So
Great.
How are those going to look different?
Yeah, great question. So in a few different ways. One way would be that first finish coat is going to soak into the wood and try to seal the wood. It's not necessarily going to do a good job of sealing the wood. So by the time you put that second finish coat down, it's soaking into the wood, and now hopefully you finally have it sealed with that finish coat, which is not good because now you just basically glued that floor together. And now you put that third coat of finish, so you really may have just a coat and a half of finish sitting on top, because finishes don't seal the wood very good. Whereas, and to me, it's less expensive if you just buy that seal coat. Mm-hmm. Well, let me go back. Having 3 coats of finish too, who knows what kind of color you're going to get or the look. I mean, if you're looking for a natural look, yeah, there's no color in, I would say most of, all of our finishes except Mega has a slight amber tint to it. But yeah, so 3 finish coats may not really pull out some of the natural color out of the wood, whereas seal coats are designed to do that too. Not only react with the natural colors of the wood, but one seal coat, if put down correctly at the right application rate, it's going to seal that wood. So now rest assured, your build's going to be great to where those finishes are sitting on top and giving you that durability. So you really missed out on putting 3 finish coats down, because you're really not giving the homeowner 3 coats of finish sitting on top of the floor. Yeah. Maybe a coat and a half of it is trying to seal the floor.
Yeah, I think that's one of the counterintuitive things to me about sealers, because it seems like vendors would want to push the more expensive products, but then on that, it's like vendors are saying, hey, no, you're going to get a better floor with more build if you use the less expensive product, but the correct product on your first coat.
Yeah, and it's just based on that formulation. I mean, finishes aren't really and it is, like you say, most guys think, oh, I'm putting a coat of something down, that's my seal coat. And it's finishes, again, they just don't make good seal coats. And there's just that risk of side bonding, especially in markets where you get a lot of movement. I mean, those temperature extremes, I mean, the seasonal movement, that seal coat is, because the finish coat cannot go anywhere that the seal coat doesn't go. So if you have some sealer soaking in between and sealing the board, now that finish coat is going to be sitting on top of that sealer. That's what allows that board to, contract and separate at the board seams, versus the board's moving in panels, because the finish has glued that board together, and if it's trying to move, it's going to separate at the weakest point, and that might be every 3 boards that you have that gap. And so that seal coat really helps, minimize. We can't say that it keeps it from happening, but if it's put down correctly and enough of it, it really helps minimize side bonding, and or panelization, whatever you want to refer to it as.
So you guys at Bona, you've got not just one sealer, you've got a whole line of sealers. So just quickly walk me through kind of the purpose of having different sealers and what each of those are.
Yeah, so as I think I mentioned earlier, the sealer really helps with the look of the floor. Mm-hmm. And so we have different sealers to give you different looks. Like if someone really likes an oil-based look, but yet they don't want the smells of an oil-based product, then we have Amber Seal that will give you that look. Of course, there's nothing that's really going to give you that depth of color like an oil will, but this is close thing of getting an oil-based look by using that sealer. And then, we have clear coat sealers. We actually just this week introduced the Bona Clear Seal.
Okay.
But yeah, so each sealer will definitely basically give you a different look. Intense Seal, no color, but it really reacts with the natural colors of the wood to make it look nice and vibrant. Whereas our Classic Seal kind of made it look like you poured water on the floor, and when it dried, it had more of a washed out look. So, and then we got Natural Seal. Those are, color pigmented sealers. They have color to them, mm-hmm. but Natural Seal has so little white pigments in there. By the time it dries, it makes the floor look natural looking, kind of like a freshly sanded floor. Okay. So yeah, it's important that the contractors understand the different looks and, create the samples. Like you would never use Natural Seal or Nordic Seal on a dark species floor unless you're going for that frosted look because of those white pigments in there. So that's all. It's just really different sealers are designed to give you different looks, and it's important that contractors understand what look they can get from the different sealers so that they can offer that to their customers.
Okay. And do you apply all the sealers the same as finish? Like, can you roll, pad, T-bar?
Yeah, the challenge with rolling water-based seal coats on raw wood is because, again, depending on how that floor was prepared, it can soak in really quick. But if you burnish it, it just gives you a better chance. And when I say burnish the floor, I'm talking like 120 to 150 hard plating, you know, with paper, not screening. It just gives you, it should give you more open time, a better chance of putting these products down. Personally, and what I tend to teach a lot is the T-bar, I mean, depending on the layout too, wide open room, you just want to, you know, pour that product out and go. Otherwise, the longer the product sits there, the more it soaks in. And then when you go to sweep over it, now you may have a shadow mark there because the product just had a chance to sit there. So, we feel T-barring as I would say, easier way when it comes to water-based seal coats from not soaking in so fast. Mm-hmm. But then, products like Bona Intense Seal, Amber Seal, those kind of had the viscosity of like some of our finishes to where you probably could roll those. But with some of the newer sealers like the Nordic seals and the natural seals and maybe even classic seal, I wouldn't recommend. With the new sealer that we're coming out with, I've seen, guys have rolled it and I would say T-bar on too, because it's just water on raw wood. So you want to really get going, and rolling can be a slower process.
Gotcha. Okay. I think you already said this, but is there any instance where you'd put down 2 seal coats, or is that all just aesthetics?
It is. It's all aesthetics. I mean, some guys may do it because they figure, well, when I put my finish coats down, it gives me better build, which it will, because the seal coat, the second seal coat's going to sit on top of that first one. But like a product like Amber Seal, 2 coats give you more amber, so that gets you closer to oil base. So with some of the other ones, or I should say Intense Seal, you're not going to notice much of a difference in color, but it's just giving you more build. But there's no durability really to the seal coats. It's all aesthetics to allow that finish coat to sit on top.
Gotcha. And then at what point in the system would you recommend a contractor buffing? Should they buff the sealer, or should they put a coat of finish over that and then buff the finish before they final coat? Or?
Yeah, so with water-based, what tends to happen is that, let me step back. We have an oil-based sealer, and that must be buffed prior to putting anything over it. That would be the Bona Quick Dry Fast Sealer. With our water-based seal coats, more than likely it's going to raise the grain, but floor prep plays a big role in that too. Like we talk about, a Tampico brush really helps clean out the soft grain to where it minimizes how much of a kind of a burst you get from that grain being raised. But you only have to buff if necessary, and if necessary means for smoothness. So if it did raise the grain, then you would want to just lightly buff it using a maroon pad, trying to round that over. Or if you waited more than 48 hours between the seal coat and that first coat of finish, or between any of the coats of water, if you wait more than 48 hours, then you must buff.
Okay.
And that's just really to create some surface area to give you a better chance. You lose that, what we call that chemical bond at that point, if you don't buff after 48 hours.
Gotcha. So your finishes and sealers are hot coatable within 48 hours. After that, you want to buff it.
Yeah, that is correct. And like I say, you would buff the seal coat. Some guys say, oh, I don't want to buff that seal coat because I don't want to break through, even if they had some grain raised, so they'll wait to put their first coat of finish down. And you can. The problem with that is that on some woods, if you catch it at the right lighting, at the right angle, it'll have this crazy mottled reflective 3D look because that grain raise never got knocked down at that seal coat. So that would be one of the reasons why I would say it's better to buff if you can that seal coat. I know Intense Seal, Classic Seal was pretty tricky to abrade because of the chemical makeup of it. It contained acrylic resins, and most guys said, man, when you braid that, it melts on you and it gives you, and that was true. And I think that's the reason why we're really looking forward to the new seal coat, the Bona Clear Seal. You won't have that issue. So even though some guys like the Classic Seal, it's been around for a while because guys continue to use it. It probably was more of a challenging sealer in terms of buffing, but they all buff nicely.
Okay. And what would you recommend somebody buff it with? Just a maroon pad or screen or?
Yes, especially that seal coat. You don't want to get too aggressive. Some guys think the more product powders up on them, that they're getting some good abrasion there. but you're also taking off a lot of product. I mean, that powder is the product being removed. So I would say when it comes to a seal coat, just a maroon pad is good enough, because you're not going to totally remove, you're just looking to round over that grain raise and not really make that floor that slick, but so that next coat sits on top and becomes a lot smoother.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so just a maroon pad, 320 grit is typically what we would recommend.
Is there ever an instance where somebody would put a sealer over a finish that you could think of, or is that just completely nonsensical?
See, again, because of that formulation, a seal coat is really designed to be applied to raw wood.
Yeah.
There are some cases that, you know, and I would always tell a guy, do a test area first. So they put their first coat of finish down and the homeowner said, oh man, I wish it can be a little darker. And in that case, I would say two of our products that would probably work better on one, you'd have to abrade that finish coat just to kind of rough it up. But you can use our Intense Seal and our Amber Seal, and I should say Amber Seal to give it some amber. But if you wanted to add some color to it, our lab has approved using a product called Trans Tint. Mm-hmm. And so you can put a little Trans Tint in our Intense Seal and then put a coat of that over a coat of traffic or whatever finish you have there. But then now you got to put 2 coats of finish. You should put 2 coats of finish over that to protect the color of that seal coat you just put down.
Gotcha. Okay. So it sounds like sealer solves a lot of issues for contractors, but if a contractor is going to screw it up, any of your sealers, what are the easiest ways they could avoid messing them up? Like, what are the most common things guys might do? Some guys think thin to win. Putting it down too thin, you're going to screw it up. I would say with all of our products, try to stay within the application rate. There is a range. I mean, and that range is on there because, studies have shown that when it's applied within the range, you get the best performance out of it. So some guys will go thinner. I mean, and there's situations where you may have to go a little thin, like, a very hot environment, Arizona, and you just can't cool down the room. I mean, all of our products have a, idea range between, 65 to 80, temperature wise, or 35 to 75. So it's a wide range, and you should be able to get that interior, the inside of that house within that range to have the best success. So, but yeah, putting it down too thin will cause you some headaches. Not prepping the floor correctly could cause you some headaches. And I'm just saying, like, burnishing it helps with the water-based seal coat. But yeah, we just say stay consistent. If you're going to be thin, stay consistently thin. If you're going to be heavy, stay consistently heavy. That way the look is going to be uniform. Gotcha. Okay. Well, awesome. Thanks, Dee. Appreciate you answering those questions and enlightening me on sealers, and specifically your sealers. So
yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for having me. I mean, that is one of those topics that guys tend to ask, why seal coat? So I'm glad you covered that.
Yeah, for sure. So appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.